This quarterly meeting of the Texas State University System Board of Regents will now come to order. This meeting is authorized under the Government Code, Chapter 551, regarding the Open Meetings Act. The agenda for this meeting was registered with the Secretary of State on August 1st. For the record, today's date is August 8th, 2024, and the time is 12:30 p.m. A quorum of the board is present. For the record, Regent Gordy and Regent Scott are absent. All in attendance, please rise. Regent Lee, will you please deliver the invocation?
My pleasure. Heavenly Father, we come to you today with gratitude for the opportunity to serve the great Texas State University system. We ask for your guidance and wisdom as we deliberate and make decisions that will shape the future of our institutions. May our discussions be filled with insight, our decisions be just, and our actions reflect the values, integrity, and excellence that this system deserves. Bless each member present. Bless our colleges and universities and all those who support us and those who we serve. And Lord, in closing, we ask for your presence with us to ensure our collective efforts contribute to the betterment of both education and our society as a whole. We ask all these things in your heavenly name. Amen.
Amen. Regent Foskey will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Regent Flores will lead us in the pledge to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
I want to begin by thanking Chancellor McCall and the system administration for hosting us in Austin this week. I'm also pleased to welcome student Regent Olivia Discon to her first board meeting. Olivia is a student at Sam Houston State University, majoring in criminal justice and minoring in English. Olivia, welcome to the Board of Regents. As we get started with regular business, I would like to remind the board that once a motion is made on an agenda item and the call for a second is requested, please raise your hand and wait for me to recognize you for the proper recording of the minutes. Also, a reminder that we are live streaming this meeting and to please silence your phones and devices. Our first item of business is the approval of the meeting minutes held on May 16th and 17th of this year. Regents, are there any additions or corrections to the May meeting minutes? If there are none, I move that the minutes of the quarterly Board of Regents meeting held May 16th and 17th be approved. Do I hear a second? Second, Regent Flores. Any discussion? Is there any objection to this motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now hear reports and motions from the committees. The committees met prior to the board meeting to go over proposed agenda items in detail. All items under consideration were voted on by the committees before coming to the full board. I will call on the chairs of the committees to present the reports and make motions to the full board. We will start with Academic and Health Affairs Committee. Regent Lee.
Thank you, Chair Tinsley. The Academic and Health Affairs Committee met telephonically on Monday, July the 29th, 2024, and was chaired by me, pinch hitting, which committee member Regent Foskey, Regent Flores, and Student Regent Deson in attendance, as well as representatives from our institutions and system staff. All action and consent items were reviewed, discussed, and approved by the committee to be moved to the full board. The first item for consideration is from Sam Houston State University. Chair Tinsley, I move that Sam Houston State University be authorized to implement the following changes in its organizational structure with an implementation as of spring 2025. 1, reinstitute the Josie School of Vocational Education. 2, rename the Josie School of Vocational Education to the Polytechnic College to offer the following degrees effective spring 2025. Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second? Seconded by Regent Amato. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
The next 5 items for consideration are from Sul Ross State University. Chair Tinsley, I move that Sul Ross State University be authorized to offer the following degrees effective fall 2024. The Embedded Associate of Science in Animal Science, the Embedded Associate of Science in Computer Science, the Embedded Associate of Science in Geology, the Embedded Associate of Science in Mathematics, and finally, the Embedded Associate of Science in Natural Resource Management. Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second? Regent Flores. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Before voting on the next item, I would like to invite President Tom Johnson to provide brief remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Regents, Chancellor, for allowing me to speak. We are completed 5 years of our 10-year plan, and then you have to be able to articulate your next 5 years of, and that's what I'm going to do. We've been very blessed at Lamar State College Orange, and I want to share with you some of the backdrop, though, of what's happening with community colleges. And one of the ones I want to point out, this is from the Texas Education Agency. As you can see, as we move closer to 2030, we're going to have less students. So you have to ask yourself, okay, if that's what's going to happen, what do we need to do so that we can continue growing? And so we looked at where we were and what we needed to do to meet this. And if this turns out to be wrong, that's okay. But you have to be able to plan for any contingency. The next one shows, this is the 2-year nationwide public institute. So if you're a 2-year school nationwide, there's been a huge drop in 2-year schools nationwide. And even in Texas, they're down. But I want to share with what we're doing at our school. And when I say our school, I want you to know that I'm talking about all the 2-year schools that are in our system because we work so closely together. Next slide. At LSCO, we decided that we're going to start doing some update in our plan, but it has to start from excellence. What are we doing? And that it be a quality education so that students want to come to our school. Then we move up to opportunity. How do we reach these students? How do we say, we're here for you? And let me tell you what it comes down to. It comes down to you being a cheerleader for your college and your community and listening. One of the things that I found out was, particularly in our area, a lot of them, the college was not on their radar at all. And so we had to quit moving, saying, you know, if you do this, you'll have a better life in the long run. I put it in a little bit different context. You want the bass boat and you want the jacked up truck, don't you? Yeah. Well, we can help you get that. We provide you that opportunity. Whether it's small engine repair, as you know, we're starting electrical as well as plumbing. We're trying to say, we want you to get where you want to go. So we have to make college relevant for that individual, so we dig down deeper. Also, our partnerships are extremely important. We're very glad that Chevron Phillips is building a new plant about 3 miles from us. But I want you to look at the whole Golden Triangle. We're blowing up in that area with good jobs so that they can make a livable wage and buy a home, and their kids can have the same great education they did. And we've opened a campus in Livingston, and the 3 2-year schools, this Wednesday we'll be opening one in Livingston. It's like a smorgasbord. You want to do this, you take it from LIT. You do this, you can take it from LSCO. You do this, you want to go with Port Arthur. As y'all know, I was a poor kid from deep East Texas in the Big Thicket. College changed my life, but it wasn't because I had this long-range plan. I just wanted to be able to have a little bit better life. And that's what we're doing. We're making college accessible for everyone. And college can mean truck driving, which Betty's already started truck driving in Livingston. People are calling me all the time, hey, I like to see that big truck driving around here, because that means real work. Adaptability is another part that we have to be able to do. The legislature gives us new mandates like everybody else, and we have to be able to adapt to it. And we've been very good at that. I will say this, our system office is incredible, because before these things happen, we already know they're coming, so that we can plan and say, okay, if this happens. We have some great things going on with the 2-year schools, and LSEO is just one of those schools within it. We started 17 new programs over the last 5 years. And so the next thing I want to show you, so up front was kind of like, it doesn't look too good, but I'm going to show you what we're doing at our college, but I know it's being replicated at our sister schools as well. As you can see, about 5 or 6 years ago, we had about 2,300. We're knocking at 3,200. That is a big increase. That's a very big increase, which means that there's more students going to school and learning a trade, a skill, or craft, or going to a university. The next one. This is non-credit. We went from 300 or so to 2,000 this past year. These are truck driving jobs. These are really, they're not the academic ones, they're the workforce type training that we're doing. These are good paying jobs. They may be in a 6-week certificate. One of my favorite ones is small engine repair for boats. I own a boat. Boats cost a lot of money, in particular around the engine. That somebody can come in and go 6 weeks and do that. And I'll tell you this, what's so great about it is the companies know that we do that. They come to our place and say, hey, we'll hire you. Oh, we'll pay you more money if you come to work with us. These are good jobs. The last one. This is one that I am extremely happy about. So not only do they come, they graduate. That's a huge number. We're doing some things for the right reasons, and we're getting the right results. I want to shed a little light, too, on our universities. As you know, we have sister universities in our system, which is great, because now our kids, they go through it and they get a certificate or an associate degree, and they finally have confidence in themselves, because when 3/4 of your students are first generation, they don't know. But then it's like, I can do this. I can do this very well. And you know what? I need a bachelor's degree so that I can move up in my company, or I want to be a foreman, or they need that little extra one. Well, now they have a certificate, they have an associate degree, and they get a bachelor's degree. We're changing people's lives. And another reason why we had to do this is all the goals that I'd set in the 10-year plan, we've already accomplished them, so we need some more. It's a good problem to have, but it's all due to the team I have at Lamar State College Orange. They are continually saying, you know what, we need to upgrade this. We need to start looking at our curriculum tighter. One of the first things we did is we had a lot of certificates that had 30-something hours. We cut them down to 18 or 24. If it's not needed, why do they need to take that? And what we've seen is a proliferation of now our students, very common at graduation, because I'll be graduating some Saturday, they're going to get 2 certificates because they were able to do that. Dr. Elmore 3 years ago said, hey, let's move to 8-week terms. I was a little nervous about that because it's like, well, I've only been president a year or two and I hate to get fired this quick. But the bottom line is this, withdrawals dropped in half, our graduations are up significantly, our A's, B's, and C's are up significantly. So it's all those things because we listen to what our students need, and we designed our college, and that's what this strategic plan is about. We adapted to what we need to do to allow these individuals, whether they're young or reskilling for another life, the opportunity to come in and be successful. We don't say this is what you need to do. We listen. And because of that, Chevron Phillips, they gave us $1.3 million when we needed a piece of equipment here about 6 months ago. And it's delivered. When industry comes in, we ask them, what is it you need? well, you tell us, and we make our curriculum work around you. And what I have found when you listen to people, it pays a lot of dividends. So that is my presentation for the strategic plan as we move forward. And I am very confident. I was scared to put some of the numbers in here because, like I said, we accomplished all we were going to do in the first 5 years of our 10-year plan. So I thought, let me go with strategies because I'm not putting a limit on it, particularly when we move to Livingston and we have all 3 two-year schools together doing the greater good. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, President Johnson.
Good job.
Didn't see anything about bass boats in that strategic plan, but yeah. Chair Tinsley, I move that Lamar State College Orange 2025 through 2029 strategic plan, including a revision to its vision statement and core values, be approved. Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second? Regent Foskey. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, the last item for consideration is from Lamar State College Port Arthur. I move that Lamar State College Port Arthur be authorized to offer a new Associate of Applied Science degree and Level 1 certificate in mechanical maintenance effective spring 2025. Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second? Regent Armato seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
Any remaining items are included in the consent agenda unless someone wishes to remove an item from consent. This concludes the committee's report to the board.
Thank you, Regent Lee. With that, we'll pass it over to the Finance and Audit Committee. Regent Lee.
Yes, sir. The Finance and Audit Committee met telephonically on July the 30th, 2024, to discuss the finance and audit items included in today's agenda. I chaired the meeting, and committee members Regents Austin and Long were present. Regent Flores and Foskey were also in attendance. The Finance and Audit Committee considered all items, and the committee agreed to move the agenda items to today's meeting for the board's consideration. The first item for consideration is Texas State University System operating budgets for fiscal year 2025. At this time, I would like to call on Daniel to provide a summary of the budget highlights.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So for our operating budget, it includes our unrestricted funds, so it's generally our state appropriations, tuition and fees, housing, dining, athletics. What this budget does exclude is our restricted funds, which is your Pell Grants. It'll be restricted research and your endowment proceeds, and it does exclude major construction since that's not operating. Total revenue is $1.7 billion, $1.74 billion, and just around half of it comes, a little bit more than half of it comes from tuition and fees, and the remaining half split between state appropriations and sales and services. Sales and services is going to be your housing, your dining revenues. For revenue assumptions, so we have the board-approved tuition rates, which will be flat, and then we used actual 2024 enrollment. State appropriation is essentially flat, and it was what the actions that were taken by the legislature more than a year ago. And then for sales and services, this will be, again, the residence hall meal plan rates, as well as the new housing capacity that was added by the Board of Regents. For revenue, so we're at 5.2%. Again, state appropriations is up 4%. That's generally flat in the second year of the biennium. This increase is associated with the constitutional amendment for the Texas University Fund. So now that that passed, it'll be recognized in this operating budget. And for sales and services, that's associated almost predominantly with bringing on the 2 new apartments at Texas State and the new dormitory at Texas State. And this slide is just to show you that as our budget increases over years, it trends with our head count and our semester credit hours to show you kind of that connection to them. Budget expenses versus our annual financial report, because we do exclude the restricted funds. There is that delta, and so you may have heard, if When Dr. Danfus presented his operating budget in committee, he mentioned his organization is pushing $1 billion, yet his operating budget is around $800 million. So you'll see as we have a $1.75 billion operating budget, our AFR at the end of that year will probably exceed $2 billion. So we are a $2 billion organization. Next. For expenditures, instructional support and academic support are the ones I'll highlight. That's kind of in the classroom direct connection. So that's right around 45% of our total expenditures. And then, as I say, we are a people-person business. More than 60% of our expenses is salary, wages, and then the payroll benefits associated with that. And for expenditures going through, you'll see, on the dollar value, Texas State up, $54 million. That's, again, associated with Texas University Fund and their increase in their housing. And then kind of are just more contextual around the strength of the financial picture. Our operating holdings as the end of May are $750 million, and then our endowment holdings pushing $450 million. For a debt perspective, with our most recent bond transaction that we did in May, we're now at $1.4 billion. Our debt service that we pay annually, we're pushing $100 million that pays down the principal, so we have a fairly aggressive principal payment, and then the debt service, the interest side of it is the remaining $55 million. So as debt has gone up significantly, as we've included the new academic buildings that the state pays a predominant amount of, and then the new housing that's come on at Texas State and at Sam Houston, while our debt capacity is up, we're aggressive on paying it down. And what I'll highlight on these next two slides is just that bottom portion. So while, again, for context, our system-wide, our debt service is almost 9% of total expenditures, which is fairly low. The state's picking up almost 3% of that, so we're at 6%. So again, shows that as the system level, our debt service to our expenses is fairly modest.
Daniel, quick question.
Yes, sir.
How does that compare to last year?
So it's significantly up from last year.
Because
our transaction that we did in May was $600 million. And then we will presumably in 18 months have another $500 million transaction. The thing to note of that, the vast majority of what we borrow is either paid for reimbursed by the state of Texas, or is our housing and parking operation, which is a revenue generator. So very little of the debt that we've issued historically, and that we issued in May actually came from designated tuition or institutional fees. So, and then, to highlight that bottom chart here, you can see with respect to the state colleges and Sol Ross, the institutional debt that they carry is de minimis. And as y'all know well about Texas State and about Sam Houston, as they've grown and they've built dormitories and parking garages, their institutional debt is higher than the others. But again, it's all, very conservative. So, and then our recap, it's a conservative budget. It's balanced. We have a targeted use of fund balance, which is predominantly with fee-driven accounts. We have adequate reserves and sound fiscal condition. So, and here for any questions.
Questions for Daniel?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Daniel. Chairman Tinsley, I move that fiscal year 2025 operating budgets for the components of the Texas State University system be approved.
Do I hear a second? Regent Flores. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
The next item for consideration is Texas State University System Fiscal Year 2025 Audit and Compliance Plan. Chairman Tinsley, I move that the fiscal year 2025 Audit and Compliance Plan for the Texas State University System be approved.
Do I hear a second? Regent Foskey. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
The next item on our agenda is an informational item, status of implementation of audit recommendations. The remaining items in our report are included in the consent agenda, and they include Sam Houston, Master of Education and School Leadership Program fee reduction. Also Sam Houston, tuition and fee reduction for the Masters in Special Education and Masters in Library Science. Finally, from Sam Houston, tuition and fee reduction for the RN to BSN program. From Sol Ross, agreement to move the finance system into the cloud. Texas State, waive tuition and fees for dual credit students. And Texas State also purchase of the Cormac McCarthy Archives. This concludes the Finance and Audit Committee's report.
Thank you, Regent Lee. With that, we'll go to the Planning and Construction Committee. Regent Austin.
Thank you, Chairman. The Planning and Construction Committee met on July 30th, 2024 to discuss the planning and construction agenda. I chaired the meeting, and Regents Flores, Tinsley, and Foskey were in attendance. The committee considered all items and agreed to move each item to today's meeting for the board's consideration. The first item for consideration is the SHSU design development documents for the Bowers Stadium press box replacement and stadium improvements. I believe we have a short video, and then Dr. White will say a few words.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Regent Austin, for the opportunity to tell you a little bit about this project. I can't hardly talk about the project without getting excited for the season. This is going to be a game changer for Sam Houston State University. As you saw from the video, the project will completely replace the existing press box with a modern 5-level structure of approximately 50,000 gross square feet and another 17,800 gross square feet of covered exterior space. You may notice it doesn't look like a lot of other press boxes. What we asked the architects to do was to create something fun, hip, young, family-oriented. We're going for a different vibe, a different experience that we think will really enhance the game day experience for fans, players, and their families and friends. The building will feature updated concessions, restrooms, luxury suites, and a club area with outdoor balcony seating. The ground level will include the main lobby, ticketing office, and apparel shop. You can come get your swag at Sam. It will be accessible from the west parking lot with a grand stairway leading to the concourse level, which will house public restrooms and concessions for the west side of the stadium. The club level will offer catering, beverage service, and outdoor balcony seating with a 2-level club lounge open to the suite level above. The suite level will include 12 large luxury suites, the President's Suite, catering, staging, and a double height space overlooking the club level. The press level will house the film deck, control room, game day operations, coaches' suites, visiting athletic director's suite, and press areas. The new design will allow us to accommodate approximately just under 14,000 fans. The architect engineer for the project is Sutherland Page, of Houston, and the construction manager at risk for the project is Hoare Construction of Houston. Also, they did a great job on our parking structure at the COM, so we're very pleased with that relationship. The project is being funded through bonds in the amount of $60 million, with debt service funded from athletics revenue. The new Bowers Stadium press box will result in projected annual operating costs of $70,833 and a projected annual maintenance cost of $451,000. We're excited for the future, for our team, our fans, athletics, and of course, we're going to win. Do you have any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
Looks great.
Thank you.
Be proud. Chairman Tinsley, I move that the design development documents for the Bowers Stadium press box replacement and stadium improvements at Sam Houston State University be approved.
Do I hear a second? Regent Long, seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you, Chairman. The next item for consideration is Texas State design development documents for the Esperanza Hall in Round Rock. A short video will play, I believe, and Dr. Danfus will give some comments.
I know how much Regent Lee loves these videos, and sorry we didn't have one for the audit report, but it's so great to see that building come to life. That building was actually being considered back in 2022 when I first started here, but I didn't feel like we had a good enough plan for what we were doing in Round Rock yet. So I wanted to make sure we got our plans in place. We hired a vice president for Round Rock, Julie Lesser, who came in there, and we actually are going great guns. We're expecting about 15% increase in enrollment in Round Rock this fall. Offering for the first time, we'll have freshmen actually attending there. We had a freshman orientation class of about 130 people show up a couple weeks ago, and so we're excited about what's going on at Round Rock, and so now we really need Esperanza Hall with the growth that we're experiencing there. Esperanza Hall will be a 3-story building with approximately 81,000 square feet with an architectural style to match the existing buildings that are on campus, and it will begin to close in the quad there. We actually have 101 acres on that property, and we expect to build another 7 or 8 buildings after this, and so we're going to start building our way away from Avery Hall. The first floor is the entry level. It will be programmed for flexible classrooms and open and closed study areas. If you watched the video, you saw there was a lot of study space in the kind of open areas. We don't have a student union there on our campus yet, so our students between classes need a place to to hang out. So we're kind of building that space into all of our buildings there on that campus for now until we build a student union sometime down the road. So we'll have flexible classrooms there, general classroom setups, active teaching and distance learning platforms in various sizes will be available on that floor. The second and third floors are programmed as future spaces for classrooms, labs, research, and faculty offices, depending on what our growth pattern looks like in the years to come. We'll actually start planning out the second and third floors. We'll shell it out at the beginning, but in 2025 and 2026, we'll start planning out what the third and second floor will look like. We anticipate starting construction November of this year and to complete it by July of 2026, which is about a year and a half process. The architect is BGK Architects, and the construction manager at risk is Joris Construction. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
You don't have dormitories out there, do you?
We have no dormitories yet. We've been thinking about that. We did a study. We first thought we needed some housing there, but there's been a huge growth number of apartments in the Round Rock area right now, so we're not sure we need it yet, but we do have that down the road, some thoughts about that in our master plan.
I'm just curious. Okay, thank you.
Yes. So a large number of our students commute from home or live in local apartments. Some of them live in San Marcos and take classes on both campuses and drive back and forth, but we're increasingly trying to make that a standalone campus where students can just do all their classes there.
I think you told me, though, you expect to have 10,000 students here in one day,
Our
right?
goal is 10,000 students, yes, sir. We'll have about 2,400 students there this year,
Okay,
so got room to grow.
yeah.
No further questions.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Chairman Tinsley, I move that the design development documents for the Esperanza Hall at Texas State University be approved.
Do I hear a second? Seconded by Regent Lee. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you, Chairman. The next item on the agenda is an informational item, the quarterly planning and construction report. There are no, let's see. This concludes the Planning and Construction Committee's report. Thank you.
The next order of business is the approval of contracts. All items in the contract section have been moved to the consent agenda. Are there any questions from the board? Since there are no rules changes in this quarter, we move on to the Government Relations Committee, which we will do in a minute. And the Regent Amato, do you have a presentation?
Sean will make the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Regents, Chancellor, Presidents. We may be in the summer doldrums for some, but I think after the last legislative session and the many special sessions that followed, many of our part-time legislators relished the slower political pace, making a living and enjoying some much-needed vacation time with their loved ones. Here's a rundown of what has been going on since I last reported to you. Interim hearings. Our State House and Senate committees are in the midst of interim hearings whereby they evaluate and study the interim charges that the Speaker of the House and Lieutenant Governor delivered to their respective chambers. The House Higher Education Committee and the Senate Higher Education Committee are our primary focus, but occasionally one or two charges from other standing committees may involve policy areas that affect our institutions. For purposes of this update, I'll just stick within the larger higher ed realm. Earlier this summer, the Senate Higher Ed Committee heard testimony involving campus free speech, combating anti-Semitism on Texas college campuses, and they were monitoring the ban on DEI policies. We anticipate that the Senate will likely continue to hold hearings, and perhaps the next meeting will look into the issue of governance in higher ed, but more specifically, faculty senates. That specific charge
is that they're going to review and analyze the structures and governance in higher education, focusing on the role of faculty senates and groups in representing faculty interests to higher education institution administrations. They're going to make recommendations to establish guidelines for the role and representation of faculty by faculty senates and like groups. As for the House, they haven't met this summer, but I anticipate them revving up this fall, and they may be exploring similar oversight issues like the Senate, but perhaps will give specific focus on the school to workforce pipeline, as well as compensation concerns related to legislation on relating to name, image, and likeness for athletes. One point of information I'll mention here is that the House will have 4 members of the committee who are not returning to serve next year in the House, including the chairman of the committee, John Kemple, who has been a true friend of our system and will definitely be missed. But we have our work cut out for us in trying to inform the newer members yet to be named to that committee. As always, I want to thank our institutions for being so responsive to our state legislators when they request us to testify at these hearings, and for providing briefings from our subject matter experts, as it is a great opportunity to highlight the incredible work being done throughout our institutions. Legislative appropriations requests. I want to extend my gratitude to our institutions for their work in putting together their respective LARs, as well as Vice Chancellor Harper for coordinating and helping compile these requests. As you know, our next step will be to present the system LARs along with each institution to select members of the LBB staff, Governor's Office, Lieutenant Governor's Office, and the Office of the Speaker. This meeting is typically scheduled for late September. We will, of course, keep all of our institutions up to date with these times and the hearings in the months ahead. Included in the system's LAR are the following priorities: formula funding, sufficient to cover enrollment growth and inflation, funding for the Texas Grants and TEOG programs, trusteed at the coordinating board, and funding for the Higher Education Fund. Our team has already begun meeting with and informing representatives from the aforementioned offices, as well as key members' offices, on the key issues affecting our component institutions. We will continue our meetings and agencies in the coming months leading up to the upcoming session. With regard to outreach, the governmental relations team has remained busy over the summer months. We've continued to host legislators and staff, thanks to the generous support of the Texas State System Foundation. I also want to highlight for the board that we continue to leverage our incredible system office for hosting both Capitol staff and institution representatives every chance we get. Just next month, we'll be hosting several members of the legislature at our headquarters for a reception recognizing a friend of our system. I also want to take a moment to announce a different kind of outreach we are trying to accomplish in the coming months: growing our student internship opportunities in both the Texas legislature and in Washington, D.C. I have been in contact with a few of our institutions who have sent interns to Austin and D.C. and look forward to helping your internship coordinators with placements in legislative offices or any additional ways I can be of assistance in helping these students succeed. Many of our former system interns have gone on to become professional staff for elected officials, and there is no better ambassador for our institutions in the legislature than our talented students. Next is the federal update, which I just passed out to you. It's pretty dense. I'll let you read it at your leisure, but just a couple of highlights of what our team in DC is doing for us. They welcomed President Danfus and Texas State alums and members of his staff on the 125th anniversary celebration that they held in Washington, D.C. They also, President Danfus and his team hosted Congressman Greg Casar, and we are in the process of arranging a similar tour of the Round Rock campus for Congressman Carter. In June, the Federal Relations team met with Texas State's CRO and his team to discuss research funding strategies revolving around semiconductors, life sciences, AI, health data analytics, solar energy, and smart infrastructure materials management. The Normandy team continues to meet with our CROs and key faculty at our two-year institutions regarding programmatic priorities and earmark submissions for the FY25. Key programs include CHIPS advanced packaging, Labor Department Workforce Development Grants, and Health and Human Services Teaching Health Center Graduate Medical Education Grants. We have identified October 22nd to the 24th as the DC fly-in dates for our biennial Chief Research Officer meeting. During those days, we will meet with a variety of agency program offices to learn more about their offerings and how we might best position our institutions for success. In closing, I will note that my next presentation to the board in November will likely be a bit more entertaining as we recap the November elections, the remaining interim charges, and look ahead to how the 89th legislative session is taking shape. This concludes my remarks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next order of business is the personnel section. The only items in the personnel section are the faculty personnel reports, and these can be found in the consent agenda. The next order of business is the miscellaneous section. The only items in this section are the gifts reports, which can also be found in the consent agenda. Before we recess to executive session, I would like to share with the group that tonight's reception and dinner will begin at 6:05 p.m. at the Bullock, Texas State History Museum, which is a 2-minute walk from our current location. For those who prefer, transportation will depart from the conference center at 6:00 p.m. The board will now recess to executive session in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.071 through Section 551.074 of the Government Code. No votes will be taken in executive session. For the record, the time is 1:17 p.m. We will now reconvene in open session. The time is 3:40 p.m. For the record, in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, no votes were taken or decision reached in executive session. If there is no further business and without objection, we will stand in recess for the day and reconvene in open session tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock a.m. The time is 3:40 p.m.